Everyone asks what's the best city to live in San Diego, but that's actually not the question you should be asking. Because what city you live in matters less than your lifestyle, your routine, and your day-to-day experiences. So let's get into what really matters. Now, when I say what city you live in San Diego doesn't matter, it doesn't necessarily mean location's irrelevant. Obviously, you have an idea of where you want to live, but focusing on that specific city name or neighborhood name isn't as important as you think. If you're thinking La Jolla's or Carlsbad's or Encinitas's or North Parks, and maybe you've come out here and you visited and you're like, that is the spot I want to live. Those labels don't tell you how it's actually going to feel day to day when you are actually living here. Because two people living in the same city can have completely different experiences. And they choose location based on reputation as opposed to actual function and what they're going to experience in their day-to-day lives. And so if you guys are thinking about buying a home out here in San Diego and want to start that conversation, hit us up right down below. But where cities do come into play, if you're moving out here, especially if you have kids, or you think about resale value, is the schools. Now, a lot of people moving out, your kids, you're doing your research, you're like, this school has great ratings online, I want to go to this specific area, but it doesn't always come down to what city you live in is the school district you go to. So Poway, if you're living in Poway, yes, you're gonna go to the Poway School District, but there's also some other areas. Just to the north, you have Rancho Bernardo, which is a master plan community, tons of different neighborhoods, and that is within the Poway School District. Now, you don't necessarily have to drive to Poway. Those schools are within the community of Rancho Bernardo, but you will still go to the Rancho Bernardo School District. Down to the south, Carmel Mountain Ranch, a few other areas surrounding there that definitely feed into the Poway School District, but aren't Poway. So let's take Carlsbad, for example, as well. You're looking online, you're like, I want my kids to go to the Carlsbad School District. The homes in certain areas of Carlsbad, La Costa, certain other areas, depending on where you are living or looking in La Costa, some of those neighborhoods feed to the Encinitas School District. Some of those neighborhoods to the northern part of that zip code feed to the San Marcos School District. So when you're looking at homes, when you're looking at areas, the second thing that really matters is your daily life. Now, two people living in the same area or the same city can have completely different lives. Maybe one's living there, they're like a 5-minute, 10-minute commute to work. The schools are within walking distance. Everything else they need is right there, where you are living there because you want it to be within the specific city to experience, maybe the beach or something else that is nearby. And you have to commute an hour to work, or you have to, drive super far to get to anything else besides that beach that you moved here for. Now, on paper, you're both living in the same city. Let's call it Carlsbad in this situation, but the real life experiences are nothing alike. Now, one thing about living here in San Diego, I've grown up here my whole life. I grew up in San Marcos, and growing up here, and it's still true today, where you live in San Diego, even if it's a specific city, you kind of do live in a bubble, right? Growing up in San Marcos, we had family in Vista, we had, friends elsewhere throughout San Diego, but a lot of the times we were within our San Marcos bubble, a few miles each way. Living up there, I didn't necessarily go down to Chula Vista a ton unless we were going to like a concert at, I don't even know what it's called anymore, Cricket Wireless is what it used to be called, Sleep Train Amphitheater. Anyways, a live music venue down there, or going downtown to meet family friends to go walk around Seaport Village once a year during Christmas time. Other than that, you're like living in your little bubble. So even where I live now in Encinitas, still kind of live within my bubble. We do a lot of things right here within Encinitas, maybe go to Carlsbad a little bit, but still a lot of it's within the bubble, unless we're out showing properties. Yeah, we show properties throughout all of San Diego, but a lot of times in my daily life, it's this bubble within Encinitas. So even though I chose Encinitas, I still get to enjoy Carlsbad, or if I want to go to Solana Beach or Del Mar or any of these surrounding areas right around here, go follow some trails out in the Livin, or go to Elfin Forest, kind of right on the border of San Marcos. And so all that's like within my bubble, but it's still all within probably a 20-25 minute radius. And a lot of people moving out here to San Diego, you're like, I want to be super close to the coast. Let's say I want to be 15 minutes to the beach. Well, there's certain areas that are 20, maybe 25 minutes to the beach. And, we'll get into the beach a little bit later and kind of, what you actually do when you live here. But there's definitely other areas within that still bubble where you're going to be striking distance from the coast, but maybe it's a little bit further, especially when you're looking at it on a map, than you expected. And then what about work? Now, there's a few work hubs. Obviously, if you work at home, it doesn't really matter. But one thing that really matters is your commute. And here's where a lot of people trip up. The commute can change everything. That extra 30 or 45 minutes in a car can make your life be a lot different than obviously if you're working from home, like I am right now, your office is a pretty close commute. But that 30 to 45 minutes extra in a car every day definitely adds up fast. Now there's a lot of people we know who do commute, right? I mean, if you're not in real estate, if you're doing your own thing, like, yes, there's definitely a lot of people who commute to all different places in San Diego. There's a few different hubs around San Diego. So if you're moving out here for a job and you want to be a certain distance from your work, let's identify that. And we can help you figure out a few areas that will work for your budget, for your lifestyle, all that kind of stuff within, that 20-25 minute striking distance from work or whatever your goals are. But that commute time could be huge. It could affect your mood, your energy, your time with your family, all that kind of stuff. And you're like, maybe it's not a big deal, but it can wear you over time. I mean, we know some people who live in Temecula, which is not even in the, San Diego County. It's the next county up to the north northeast, but they live up there. They work in Oceanside, and I don't know how they do it, honestly. Homes up there are much more affordable, but doing that drive every day, I would go insane. But my wife, for example, used to live down in Pacific Beach, so a little bit further south in San Diego. She was working down there at the time. We moved up to Encinitas, and she had a commute every day, and it was a typical job. She was a teacher, so you were getting like that rush hour time, and that's obviously the times that are going to be the worst on the freeways here in San Diego, especially the direction she was going, especially the areas where she was going. She had to go like up the 5 freeway, and then where they all meet, the 5, the 805, and the 56, all right there. In the directions she was driving and the time she was driving, she was a school teacher, so she was getting out at the times that a normal job would get out, right? So she's driving home in the rush hours, and those are the times here in San Diego. Obviously, you're gonna get a ton of traffic. So maybe on a Saturday morning, driving back and forth that distance, maybe you took 20, 25 minutes. On those work days, she'd get off work, she'd have another probably 45 minutes to an hour drive to get home. So after a full day of work doing that, she ended up quitting, right? Because it was just too much. So she got a job that's 19 minutes away now. It can be done if you're willing to do it. So a lot of people who we talk to, who we're hopping on Zoom calls with, who are moving out here, when we're going over jobs and all this kind of stuff, they're like, okay, well, my job is gonna, make me do, drive twice a day, twice a week to work. So maybe like Tuesday, Thursday, or 3 times. In that case, it really comes down like, yeah, maybe it's doable where you don't have to drive 4 days a week or 5 days a week. You can work at home a few days a week. Those longer drives might be a little bit more doable. Or if you have flexibility where you don't have to go to work at the rush hour times, that's going to be a little bit more doable. But the commutes here in San Diego could definitely put a damper on where you live. So when you are identifying neighborhoods, definitely keep in mind your commute, because it can change the way you live out here in San Diego quite significantly. The next thing that matters is choosing the best area in San Diego. But where is the best area? There's no real best area in San Diego. It really comes down to you, to your lifestyle, to what you're getting into every day. Let's say you're moving out here, you have no kids, you're gonna buy a house, and you want a little bit of walkability. You want to be able to go down to the coffee shop. You want a little bit of, maybe a little bit more energy, maybe a little bit more nightlife, or just places to go out, and you just want to be around people. Well, there's some best areas for you to kind of start checking out. Let's say you're moving out here and you have a few kids. Now you're starting to look at schools, parks, amenities for kids, things to do with kids. Where can we go? Where can we get outside? All that kind of stuff becomes important. Let's say you're a little bit further along. You want some peace and quiet. You want some long-term comfort. You want some convenience. You want to be right near your favorite store or whatever the case may be. Well, that could be the best area for you. The mistake is choosing a location based on what sounds good as opposed to what's actually really good for your lifestyle. And within all these different categories, there's going to be a few different best areas for you based on your budget, your lifestyle, and everything that's important to you. The next thing that matters is how you actually spend your time. So let me ask you a question. Well, I'll ask myself a question. How often do I go to the beach? Well, we just went to the beach on Sunday, and right now when I'm making this, it's early January, and it was gorgeous, by the way. Is it always like that? No, but it's like we're in a little kind of heat wave right now. It's probably like 75 degrees out. The coast was beautiful. But Typically, yeah, summertime, the kids are off, we're going to the beach more. It's a great activity to do. It's, 10 minutes from my house, so we do that a lot. But when you're actually living here, like growing up in San Marcos, I was about probably 25, 30 minutes to the beach, and we went to the beach a decent amount. But I also know people who, like, let's say you're going surfing. I live a few miles to the beach. I have a buddy who lives a few miles further inland, and he's up in Carlsbad. I'm in Encinitas, so he's a little bit north. He's a little bit further inland, a little bit further to the beach. Now he could shoot straight out to Carlsbad, but he goes to the beach. He goes surfing every Friday morning, right? He goes out there. He actually moved out here from somewhere else, so he moved out here. He's going surfing more than I did. Now, when I was younger, when we lived in PB, when I was 3 blocks from the beach, when I had no kids, I went surfing every single day. I'd get off work, go jump in the water, because I was like, I don't know when I'm gonna have this opportunity again, so take advantage of it. But now kids, yes, it takes up some time, but when you're thinking about living, like, I wanna be 15 minutes from the beach. Can you be 20 minutes from the beach? Could you be 25? Because it could definitely open up. Like, we just made a video, like I said, a lot of people wanna be right by the coast, right on the coast, or that's at least the thought they have when they reach out, when they're our first conversations that we're having with them. I want to be super coastal. I want to be 15 minutes from the beach. The recent video we made was like areas that are 20 minutes from the coast, where you get to live this great lifestyle, but you're not paying those coastal prices. So if you want to go check out that video, we'll put it up right here, and go see some of those different areas in North County, San Diego that could potentially work. So something beyond the beach. How often are you going to like these little downtowns where you have, like Carlsbad Village, you have downtown Oceanside, you have all these little central hubs, you have actual downtown, you have certain areas of North Park, all these little areas have their own little downtown. How often are you actually going down there? Me living here, we probably go down, maybe go on a date night once every other month, maybe bring the kids out a few times a month, that kind of thing. So like, yeah, we're down there, but it's not like a daily thing. Now, most locals love San Diego, but we're not doing the touristy stuff every single day. We have our times, we'll take even staycations. I brought my wife, we did a little staycation down in La Jolla, did the kayaking down there, went into a few little restaurants, kind of cruised around, did the touristy thing. We went to Lawrence Welk, which is over in Escondido. It's a big resort out there. Brought the kids out there, swimming pools. Those are all within 30 minutes of my house, right? But most weekends look like errands, kids sports, family times, staying at home. So you're living in your home a lot more than you are living in these amenities. And maybe that extra little time to get down to there maybe is not a deal breaker if it still fits in your budget, or maybe because typically the further from the coast you go, or from these central little hubs, the less expensive it gets. So a little more bang for your buck. Now, one thing that probably matters the most is your house as opposed to your zip code. So your house is where you live every day. The downtown areas, all the beaches, all that is kind of where you visit weekends, maybe, whatever. But your house, are you remote work? Are you working at home? Obviously, you're gonna be there a long time. I'm in my house a lot, making a lot of these videos for you guys. So this is my home. It's super important to me. How's the parking situations? You're looking at a yard, are you looking at patio? What's important in that front? Obviously, a lot of this comes down to, okay, what's your budget? And then where is that gonna get you that specific thing that you're looking for? Which area is that gonna get you? But sometimes a little less hyped area, maybe that you didn't even know about. Maybe when you visited, you came to Carlsbad and you're like, I love Carlsbad. I wanna move out here. I mean, these are conversations we have with clients all the time. We went out there now, but that doesn't necessarily fit our budget because, here's where we're at. We're at $1.2 million. We wanna be in a single family home. What areas can work for that? Where you still have access to that, where Carlsbad's still within your bubble, where you could still get there. There's a bunch of areas for that, right? There's a bunch of cool spots here in San Diego that fit those. And it's not only North San Diego, South San Diego, there's all kinds of different areas for different lifestyles. But when you're dialing it in, kind of that house is where you probably spend the majority of your time. So that is one of the things that matters huge. But that's not to say that buying a home in a certain area because it's within your price point and it checks all your boxes, you still kind of want to think about a few things like resale value. How's the school district? How's the current demand? How's the current situation? Is it in a popular area? How is the local growth looking? Is there a future for this place? Because if you're going to live there, even if you're going to be there a while, like I said, kind of long term, what does the resale look like? Now, this is your forever house. Some of those things don't really come into play as much. It more comes down to the house, your lifestyle, what you're going to do every day. But you also want to make the right decision and not just choose an area based on the home, although it is one of the big factors. you got to kind of take all the other factors into account. And that's what we do, help you dial in all these spots. So yes, where you live in San Diego definitely matters, but what matters a lot more is how you live in San Diego. So before you pick your neighborhood, you need to understand your routine, your priorities, and what actually fits your life right now. And that's exactly what we help people figure out every single day. So if you are thinking about moving to San Diego, and you want a little more insight in the area and kind of the whole layout of it and a little more intel, a little more info, definitely go download our relocation guide. It'll give you some good insight into San Diego as a whole. And if you are thinking about buying a house out here, as always, I'm Chris Erickson with the Livin in San Diego real estate crew, and we want to start those conversations. We love to earn your business. So all of our contact info is right here or in the description below. Call, text, or email, because we got your back when making the move here to San Diego. All right, thanks guys.